Hello guys, welcome back to more Warframe, and today we are helping Juan to try and remember the strengths and weaknesses of enemies. Sadly, there is too many health types and even I can't remember them all, but what I could do for you is explain what damage types is good for which faction, and I will try to help you remember them. And because I also have a very bad memory, I will share with you what do I do. Before we decide what to remember, we need to first find out what are the best damage types in general for each faction. So what I did was I went to Wiki and I went to the overview table, copy everything, make sure you press all so that you have all of the health types, and then just basically paste it on Excel. And then doing some editing, move some stuff, delete some unnecessary informations. After that is done, what I need to do next is rearrange the health types because they are not arranged according to factions. So you really want to make sure that you put all of the health types for the Grineers with the Grineers, the Corpus with the Corpus, and the Infested with the Infested. And that's what I did, and of course I labeled them. Now once that is done, the next thing I did was I introduced an extra column for each faction, and what the column will do is basically I will put numbers on them, rating them from 1 to whatever number on which category of damage type is the best, or at least I deem the best. Now when you want to find the best for each damage type, you also need to decide what type of health type do you want to focus on, or rather which health type is more important to you. So I also added an extra row and to determine which health types do I deem more important, and basically color coded them so that you can see better, and that's pretty much it. Alright, after a really long consideration and comparison with what other people think, I came up with this, and let me explain. So for Grineers, you want to focus on the ferrite armor or the alloy armor because the armor is what makes them so tough. Okay, underneath that armor is the clone flesh. Okay, so basically the clone flesh is protected by this 2 armor. The alloy armor are more used by higher tier Grineers like the Bombards, and the ferrite are actually used more by the majority. This includes the heavy gunners as well. So that's what I decided to go with, the majority, and let's see what we have. First you go with Puncher and you get a 50% increment, and the alloy is really just a bonus. You come down over here and then go with Toxin. Oh sorry, you don't go with Toxin because you want to get Corrosive, and because Corrosive is Toxin plus Electricity, so you don't have the option to get Toxin or Electricity. So instead I went with Coal because all I have left is Heat or Coal, and I believe it's a good idea to counter that alloy shield. So I went with Coal. So Corrosive, Coal, and Puncher. Okay, for Grineers. One thing you want to know is the reason why I darkened this part is because machines, they are very rare and they are quite easy to kill. There are those rollers and also those flying camera thingy in the Grineer maps, so you do not really have to pay much attention on the machines, so you can just like ignore them completely. This is the reason why I darkened this part. So just really focus on the armors. Now some people would go for the radiation and viral. In my opinion, radiation is good, but viral not so much. Okay, the reason why viral is not that good is because how the hit point multiplier works. Okay, I can give you an example. I'm not going to explain exactly how it works right now here. I'll probably make a different video to explain that, but then as an example, if you have a Grineer that has an armor of 120, okay, this viral will only give you an additional around 25% extra damage when you from whatever damage you're doing, okay, because the hit point multiplier is sort of, in a way you can say, is protected by the armor, and they are calculated differently when the enemy has armor. Okay, so here is the armor multiplier, and this is the hit point multiplier. We'll go through it some other time, but just to let you know that the viral, this number is not to be trusted, is actually a lot lesser. Okay, so on to the next part, which is the Corpus. Now Corpus, they are slightly different from the Grineer. The Grineer has the armor that is protecting the clone flesh. For Corpus, they have the shield that is protecting two types of flesh, sort of. You have the humanoid flesh, and you also have the robotic parts of flesh, okay, robotic parts. So these two, the robot parts and also the flesh, is both protected by the same shield. Now at higher tier, the shield is used by the higher level enemies are different. They are called proto shields. So basically there are two types of shields, one used in general, another one used by the stronger enemies. Now since this is used by the general, the majority, so I'm gonna focus on this shield. And let's see what we have. We have impact, and it gives 50% extra. Over here there's a bonus on the proto shield as well. Then after that, I came down to Toxin. Now the reason why I didn't get coal is again because of magnetic, and magnetic is coal plus electricity, so I couldn't have these two anymore, so I have to go for Toxin, because if I go for heat, then it doesn't make any sense, because I'm just minusing 50% on my proto shield, but no gain at all. It's actually really okay if you don't want this and you decided like, okay, I'll just get magnetic, and you can mod your equipment based on something else. That's totally okay, because without Toxin, you will save one extra slot on your weapon mods. So that's definitely a high plus. But then Toxin, if it does proc, potentially it could do a pretty good damage, or maybe even kill the enemy before the shield is destroyed. So that is the good part about Toxin. And if you've seen the video before this, you'll realize that focusing on Toxin, or gas rather, is actually pretty good for Corpus. Okay, let's move on to the Infested. So for the Infested, there is also a darkened part here, which is the sinew flesh. And the reason why I darken this part is because there is only one enemy that has the sinew flesh, and it is the Jordis Golem, which is a boss in Eris. And you'll never come across him in any other mission, maybe in the last mission of Shorties, but then besides that, you're pretty much never gonna do anything, have anything to do with this dude. So I darkened this part. And I focused on the fossils. Now the fossils are like the ancients, okay? Although it's not by the majority, but whenever there are ancients, there are things like energy reduction, damage reduction, and all that stuff, which really makes the others harder to kill and also give you a harder time. So it's very important to kill the ancients first. Okay, so instead of focusing on the majority and have a great time until one ancient come out and everything becomes really hard, I would rather you have a moderate, sort of a moderate how do I say this, like journey, and then when the ancient comes, it'll be like an easy kill for you, so everything will still be okay. So this is what I did, and let's just take a look. So of course the slash, because of the positive, and then over here you have to make a choice. You can either get heat or you can have blast. Okay, blast is more focused on the fossils, but you need to have two elemental mods to get blast, which is heat and coal. Where else, if you just have heat, then you have a good round of, how do I say this, you'll do more damage on the other majorities, but 50% less on the fossils. Then of course corrosive for the fossils, and that's pretty much it. Okay, now let's take a look at what if you are prepared. Okay, let's say if you were to face the Grineers with 4 corrosive projection, then you can mod it differently, because ferrite and alloy armor no longer exists because 100% armor reduction. So you can mod it such that you focus on slash, heat, and viral, and this will do a ton of damage. And also for the Corpus, now I did not change anything for the Corpus and Infested, they're actually exactly the same thing. But then if you've seen the video just before this one on how powerful gas, the toxin from gas could be, then you could actually do that and mod for gas instead, and then you know, pick an invisible type of Warframe and also a high proc chance weapon, and then just do some spins and kill everything. So you could mod it for that way as well. So it really depends on what you have on to really decide what you want to mod to. But in general, you just want to follow this one. This is the most basic kind of build, I would say. Okay, so for an Infested, I don't really have much to say about it. It's too straightforward, I guess, to me. And then we come down over here. Now this is the part where I embarrass myself by saying, because I'm so forgetful and I always forget to change the mods and all this thing, I decided to go on something general, something that will work for everything. And wait, this is actually not the one. Let me just change this. Oops. This one. Okay, so the general one will actually be this one, slash, coal, and corrosive. So let's just take a look. So for the Grineer, you have extra clone damage, so positive on that one. For ferrite, you have a negative 15, but because of corrosive, a positive 75, you'll get a positive 60%. So positive on this one. Now for alloy, you have a negative 50, but because of coal, you now only have a negative 25. So a partial negative on the alloy. Then you come over to the Corpus. So you have a positive on the flash, negative on robotics. There's nothing much you can do about it. But because you have coal, and remember we talked how important shields are. If you can break the shields, you potentially do a lot more damage, because to both the flashies and the robotics. Because I don't know if you have seen this before, but there are times where the enemy have a lot of shield, like 70 to 80% is shield, and their health is only like 20 to 30% of health. So in those type of cases, you really want to go through the shield as fast as possible, instead of you know, modding for the flash and take a real long time going through the shield and then finally touching the flash, which you probably destroy in one hit or something anyways. Okay, so this build has downside for the robotics and also for proto shield, because corrosive will actually decrease the damage of proto shield by 50%. So this is, but then you could do high damage with shields, so it's kind of balanced, I guess. Then over here is the Infested. So because of slash, you have some high points here, and then because of coal, you kind of neutralize this. So this one you do not do any extra damage, but for fossil you still do some extra damage, because for corrosive, the 75% minus this one, you still have 50% plus 15, you'll get 65%. So positive here, neutral here, positive here, positive here, positive here, positive here. I would say it's quite balanced. Okay, now there is another way you can mod it, which is also something that I use, is that you forget about this. and you go for heat instead, because after you use corrosive you actually can mod either coal or heat. It's really up to you, and you can actually go for heat instead. And what this does is that it makes you really bad for Corpus, okay, because the proto shield now is like negative 100% and the robotics is like negative 25, and you do not have any extra damage on the shields, which is also very important. So you kind of suck with the Corpus, but then you get really good with the Infested, because you do not have these negatives anymore from coal, and instead you have these two positives. So you get really good with the Infested. And for the Grineer, you'll still suffer from the alloy damage because now it's a negative 50, but at the same time you have a little bit of coverage from the 25% of the hit point multiplier. Okay, so this and in this type of build, what I'll do is basically, if I ever want to go and fight a bunch of Corpus, maybe bring a mag, or I'll just have a special Warframe modded for Corpus, and that's pretty much it. So I have only 2 Warframes, right? Okay, and for the part where I help you to remember, now this is some simple trick where my teacher in high school taught me, is you just basically take the initial of the words that you want to remember and put it in a sequence and then make a sentence out of it. Okay, so over here we have the Grineer, so we have a G, we have puncher, so we have a P, we have coal, so we have a C, and we have corrosive, so we have another C. Now, how can you tell the difference between the 2 C's is basically because of the sequence. We are always gonna get from top to bottom. So like for example, the Corpus will be C, and then you have the impact, which is I, and then toxin T, and M for magnetic. So it's always from the top to the bottom. So if you see something like for the Infested, you see the C at the end, you know that it has to be a combined element. It couldn't be coal, because if it's coal, it'll be somewhere in the middle. Okay, so all you have to do is just remember these initials, and the sentence to make, I will help you. The first one, I decided on going with something like grandma plays Candy Crush. Okay, and the second one for Corpus, can I touch myself? And for Infested, I went with I saw her. And for BC, you can be creative and decide what you want for B and C. Okay, I saw her what. Sorry that took kinda long. I bet the more experienced player are either asleep or dead by now, which makes this a really good time to share an old trick that is probably responsible for making me more of a melee player than a ranged player, and it's the use of Life Strike and Rage. Okay, Life Strike will heal your health depending on the damage you do while channeling, and because when channeling it costs you energy, with Rage on, any damage done on your health will be converted into energy. So as long as you do high enough damage such that you spend less energy to keep your health full than gaining energy from losing health, you are basically immortal. And as long as you keep hitting and nothing hits you in one hit, you will never die. So having vitality and also flow will help you in this build. And another reason why I want to share this right now is because of an upcoming video where having some knowledge of this will help you understand that video a lot better. So as you can see in the background is a shorty mission, and most of the level 100 enemies are heading my way, and I managed to defend pretty much just by swinging my sword around. 2 members left because they died too many times, and 1 is playing safe at one of the terminals B. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe and also like this video if it helped. This is Zelp, wishing you a great day, Tennos.